It's not just discussion between us, and that you're very welcome to ask questions, to say something, not necessarily the cleverest thing, so you can say whatever you want to say. Of course, if it goes with the conference team and our debate, you're most welcome. But if you let me, I'll start. You know already Alberto, and you know Andrea, and you know Barbara. We have two newcomers on this round table, Malin and Bergis. Did I say it right? Kind of. Comes from Sweden. She works with independent groups and in art performance with dancers, musicians and actors. She's also part of Caravan project, especially with the project Theater Spira, if I understand well. And at the end of our not round table anymore is Draga Potočnjak. She's from Slovenia. She's an actor. She works at Youth Theater Slovenia. She's also a writer. She's a drama writer, and she also published a very interesting book. And she worked with Bosnian refugees in 90s, so she's very experienced in that field. Now that we know each other, I thought that we should start with concrete things such as the Caravan project, social and community theater. Alberto already explained something at the beginning, and my question would be, you a bit answer it. How does the Artist on the Road, which is the name of the Caravan project as well, how does it change the landscape? How does it change the view that we have on a culture which was mainly so far not only institutionalized, put in the public institutions, but you're not the first one, you're not the only one. You have artists on the road, you have artists on the street, you have artists in the town, you have local people involving in these projects, and you're opening the wild space of culture and art to the audience. And I would like to know, I know it's a quite wild question, an open theme, how does this change the landscape of culture and art? Let's say between institutions and non-governmental organizations, or between locked place and open place. How would you say it opened the space, and who profit more, community, art, or they all profit?
Yes, the change that we are working for, and it's on different levels. For example, in a city of Italy, La Spezia, we worked in a square that was named Piazza Brin. Piazza Brin in La Spezia. It's a very beautiful square, but people outside the neighborhood of this square don't like La Spezia, Piazza Brin, because they say that it's plenty of bad people and so on, because there is a strong immigration, but there is a strong presence from old people from La Spezia too. So for us it was very interesting to work on this meeting between foreign people that now they are begin Italian people, and the old inhabitants of that square. But our goal at the start of the work was to break down the barrier that separate the external people, the high quality people, and the people that live in Piazza Brin. This is a first change. All the work was to break these barriers, and so do with people, with the citizen of the square, something of beautiful to show to citizen. Because you came to me if I have something to show you, something but of special, something beautiful, to change the point of view that people had of that contest. This is the first change. Another change was, sure, an institutional change, because if citizens of La Spezia have a bad thought about that square, I think that was a responsibility by the municipality too, because in which way worked the assessore, the cultural municipality and social municipality for that square, which is the image that they are building. And so for us was important to bring the person in charge of municipality culture and bring him in the square to watch the shows, the parade, the work with the citizens. And for us to arrive a really change, you have to work on beauty. And so this is the motivation that we work on arts and creatives. If you don't work on beauty, you can do a very good and high quality work on social themes and social disciplines, but it's not art.
That was my next question, since art seems to be the last warrior on barricades for themes as solidarity, ethics, and so on. And it opened the space and combined people, different people, like in your case, Literary on the Square. But you work with artists mostly, or you work with people from different fields of social life?
Professionals of social and community theater in particular are professionals that came from artistic and creative fields. For a special project, for example, we worked in an oncological hospital in Turin. Sure, you have to work with professionals from healthcare field and medical and medical humanities and doctors and so on. But in a interdisciplinary work of a keep work, but just for specific works. Normally, the professionals that work with CST theater are artists, video operator, and work on different creative and artistic languages, but always creative and artistic languages.
Okay, Malin, you come from a different country than Italy and Slovenia are. Sweden seems more organized, clean, and so on. And I would like to know what the Caravan project what kind of a change did in Sweden.
Well,
and if you can combine your experience from working with artists with this project.
I haven't been on the Caravan project from the beginning because we are the co-partner, the Swedish co-partner in Gothenburg. Teater Spira made their participation in the beginning of the project when I wasn't there, so I can't really say what happened with the Teater Spira in the beginning. What was it?
Well, the question was how much can maybe it's naive, but how much can a project like this, whenever you enter it, how much has changed the scenery in the Swedish, let's say, art production, or projects which combine social sensibility or social awareness and art?
How can I answer? I think that you're asking about the community art projects that mostly is in our city, and you need to help me here because I need your help, are mostly within the institutions. So we don't see that much that the projects that you have been talking about in the streets or in the squares. Maybe because it's so cold, I don't know. We can only use like 1 or 2 months outdoors, actually, per year. So mostly the community arts projects are within the institution. So it's more like outreach projects to invite certain groups of the society to develop the artistic content, I think. But I think the Caravan project is a real reminder of the world outside Sweden, because as you said, we're very organized, and we need this spark to remember that there's something else, and we don't need this strict, regulated cultural art world, because I think if we work too much, we will just develop our own little world, and the art world is getting narrower and narrower in Sweden, so we need the outreach thinking, the community art thinking. Could that be answering your question? Kind of?
To me, it's a great information. I don't know much about Sweden, so does the situation that in Italy you have more refugees each and every day change somehow the project that you're working on, or in general social and community theater?
But I think that about Project Caravan,
Let's say Caravan to start with.
But normally we have in Turin, in specific in Turin, where it was born the ideas of the Caravan. We have worked from 12 years about social and community theater, and in Italy there is a long tradition about social theater. In Turin, in particular, our idea was to build a work with the community. Normally, in the past, social theater worked with the groups, for example, 15, 20 person, and in different contests, but contests that have a particular difficulty, like the jails and so on, to empower people from that contest about their identity and freedom and so on. The step with social and community theater was to build a dramaturgy with and on the community. For do this, you need an high-level professionals, you need dramaturg and artists and so on. This was the base from we started to build the idea of a Caravan Artist on the Road.
But generally in Italy, how do you cope with this problem of refugees when it comes to art and culture? How much you involve them, if you do? How much you talk about this in art field?
In Italy, we broken a wall. I think 10 years ago, because there is an invisible wall between the big artist institution and social and community work. I think that it's a cultural and historical wall, invisible, absolutely invisible, but not so much, because just for have the budget to do this, the institution too do the difference between institutional art, like museum, like big theater, and people that makes art with in a social context. Caravan in Italy, in particular in the north of Italy, contribute a lot to break this mentality. For example, in Italy, it's very important a meeting organized by institutional artist that is named Le buone pratiche del teatro. In italiano is the best practices of theater. And always was invited the traditional artist of theater. In the 2013, for the first time, they organized a best practice on theater about the community theater. Community theater was so like a new frontier of theater, but we do it from 20 years ago, and so I think that to break cultural barriers starting inside the situation, you need a lot of time and big projects like Caravan. No? Caravan in Italy is a best practice because all the partners arrived first in all Europe and so on. You have to bring at home honor from Europe to have something, to have to see, to people can see you. I think that the work say much more than honor.
Okay, so we have a lot of levels. We have within the art, we have public and non-governmental organization, and you need to put them together to start to talk or collaborate or at least understand each other. Then you have not only within the art, then you have bridges to build between art and other fields and so on. So we have a lot of work to do, I think. The debate with the refugees, because Italy is well known also for refugees, is also to ask Draga, because she has a lot of experience. You work with Bosnian refugees in 90s in Slovenia, with the young people who were, because of the war, they have to leave their home and they come to another foreigner country, and I guess that whatever you did with them helped them to survive that time and helped them probably to articulate the situation they were in. So how was it to work with them, and what was the effect for the refugees and for Slovenia?
Yes, it was a great effect for the refugees and for me, because we had a really wonderful time. I was very depressed during when war started in Croatia. That's why I wanted to, and I started to work with Bosnian refugees, with the youngsters, as you said, young students. Mostly they were students from all parts of Bosnia, but also they were children from Srebrenica and some regions around Srebrenica. And I had 4 groups. I was working for 6 years with them. So also after war stopped. I remembered it was very sad story when in 1993 it was Srebrenica should fall. Well, war was very strong and so on, and I was working with children who were from 7, 8 years old until 14. And they were so sad and they were so depressed that they couldn't work anymore, because they were watching television and they knew everything what was going on. And they had a very bad feeling because they are not there. And mostly they were alone. Mostly they were without parents, or all of them were without parents. They had an aunt or an aunt of. Some of them they was looking for a few of them and so on. So, and then I asked myself really why I'm doing this. And I was asking myself all the time why I'm doing this, because they were asking me to stop, actually, because they say we are not there we should be. We should be at home, because and they stopped eating. They were not sleeping. They were just sitting in the school or wherever they were. And actually, we stopped. It was my second group, because I was working, for example, for a year or half a year or 8 months, and then our group just split because they went elsewhere, because Slovenia was not very good for them, not very familiar, not prijazna, not very...
Not a nice country.
Nice country, so yes. So, and then we just stopped working, and I asked myself really why I'm doing this, because they were asking the same question. And this is a very important question, I think. I found out that I was doing it all mostly because of myself. Mostly I wanted to help myself, actually. We had very good time, really. And after that, I was working with people with the special needs. I was working for 18 years with the people who had problems, different problems, more problems than me in life. And I studied also drama therapy and so on, but I'm sure that everything I did it because I need it, just me, myself. I don't believe in charity. I don't believe that, well, I think we didn't do best theater, because we got few international awards and so on. And we were in Austria and Italy, and we were in Bosnia, and we had invitation and so on. So it was not bad theater, but we helped each other. People liked our performances, but nothing... Slovenia has nothing from it. Nothing has happened nothing has changed.
It didn't change the awareness, because, I mean, they were from the country which used to be part of Yugoslavia, and we used to be brothers and sisters, to say so. And I know we have these problems with the race, and before we had with the refugees. You didn't think it changed the awareness of people in Slovenia?
No, not at all, because we were fighting all the time for money, and we were fighting all the time against common mind. So it has changed nothing, actually, just nothing. But it was very important for us, and it was very important for young people who were who found not home, because they were not at home, but they find their cultural space in a way, you know. So they found themselves, and as far as I know, most of them they are successful now. So it helped a lot. But theater can't change the world. Dostoevsky says that beauty can change the world. And art is only the part of this beauty. So this is it. I've learned a lot, and I've never had, it's absurd, I never had better time in my life with people, because it was very strong. I think it was the strongest theater I did in my life.
Interesting to hear.
Yeah, but what is important, I found out, because later I studied drama therapy, and I was working with people with special needs. I was doing projects who lasted 5 years with people who had cerebral paralysis, and I worked in a special school and so on. And what I found out is that you should be an artist if you are doing such things, and you should be a very strong artist, because otherwise you can do a lot of harm. This is what I've learned when I studied drama therapy on Pedagoška faculty. I think people who don't know they're doing theater, and they're not skilled in theater, they don't have enough skills, they can do a lot of harm. So it's something that it is very important, but I think it is better if it's not good.
Wow, strong points of view. Barbara, you don't work with refugees, you work with oppressed. I still can't quite get it, the name, because I think in one point we all are oppressed. And you, in a way, you're not doing, I can't compare your and Draga's work, but it has some similarities. It has some similarities that you are dealing with art, doing art, but you also choose to do it for not artistic project, but for other reasons, other projects, to spread the frame of art. Did I understand it well?
Yes, somehow. I will try to answer or to give you feedback. I don't know where to start. Maybe, it's called Theater of the Oppressed. In Slovene, Gledališče zatiranih. I don't know why they translated it like this, because it can be also different. It could be different. I believe that we all are oppressed. The question is just if we reflect this or if we don't. Just a short anecdote. I remember my relatives. It was 2 years ago when I started to work with Theater of the Oppressed. I started to work or to get to know this method. When I told them that what I'm doing, this is one relative that has a lot of money and from my perspective, he has a house, wife, they're like perfect family without children. They have a good car and stuff. And he was like, but Barbara, why are you doing Theater of the Oppressed? People won't like it because it's for oppressed people, And it was really like something like that. And the answer from him was like, I don't want to do this because I'm not oppressed. So I was like, I guess he actually is. Just he didn't, and he still, till now, he would defend it, that he is not oppressed, But I believe that he is because of his mentality, even though he has everything. I believe he doesn't. What I'm trying to do with this method is, because this is maybe a bit bizarre, but I don't see myself as an artist. I just see myself as an activist, even though I'm not an activist. I don't know. I finished cultural studies. That's it. But maybe theater as a method, Theater of the Oppressed as a method, as I said, is close to me because we can use our bodies to express or to tell other people our stories, our personal stories that are related to some social problems. And as we also somehow said before in the first part of this conference, yes, this theater also has therapeutic, I mean, it can be also, it can has like these therapeutical touches or something. I mean, I believe that in the process that is the most important in this method, when we explore ourselves, our bodies, the topics that we work with, and the topics that are coming from ourselves, from the group. These are really these therapeutical moments when we start to reflect on ourselves. I remember, I don't know, it was, I said 2 years ago or something, on my first training, we were doing, I don't know, some very simple exercise, but in a moment I saw that some people, and also myself, we started to cry because something just relieves us. So I think that these are maybe also these points, and Theater of the Oppressed, I see it as a very complex method that is really like going everywhere. So that's why I'm sometimes asking what Theater of the Oppressed is and what is not, because these borders are really like, I mean, it's spreading everywhere. Also, one of the, not techniques, but ways of doing is calling aesthetic of the oppressed, where you use also music, dancing, colors, and you paint and writing poems and stuff. So it's really like, to me, it is everything, but it is not everything.
Do you work with, I don't know, Draga used to work with refugees. Do you work with, I don't know, all refugees or people with problems which are not actually dealing with theater or from other fields, but they are not trained or they didn't study theater? I would like to know with whom are you working with and for whom?
Mostly like people that we are working together are people that don't that are not from theater field professional, even though in our theater group, Transformator, there are two people, one theater director and dramaturg. But let's say yesterday, every Wednesday, I have a group in Ljubljana. These are like youths from 15 to 25, and some of them are young people that are not in this formal, that they don't visit schools anymore because they're a bit more, I don't know, I would say a bit more creative youths. This is one group that I'm working with regular, but I don't know, it depends like who are the groups. As I said, like last year I worked with women. Now this group in Maribor, we are like 7 of us, something like that, from just different fields, students and people that already work, different ages and gender. So it depends.
You know each other's work, Barbara and Draga?
No.
I heard about Barbara's work, yes. Only that I haven't seen nothing. I don't know much. I know Theater of Brest. I know what Boal did. I've read some books and so on. So it's nothing else.
But maybe it's time.
I don't have time. This is the question. That's why I stopped working with. Well, I'm not doing anymore these things. Even now for 3 or 4 years, when I was writing a book, then I just stopped because I'm employed in the theater as well and so on. And while I was studying and then working, I was thinking of my artistic future, because when you're working on such project, you cannot develop much as an artist. Otherwise, you would have to put all of yourself. Otherwise, I shouldn't be employed in the theater, and then I would like to work, for example, with workers. Now I would go to the factory and to work with them and so on. But for this, I'm not paid, you know. This, I think, it can be really a great work for an artist, because it is powerful, and it is very important that art, theater has power, and that it has sense and so on. So it can be artistic, but you should give all of yourself in it. Otherwise, it's just, doing... sometimes I had 4 groups, so I was really... and I was working on such projects for 18 years, so it was a great part of my life. But then I realized that I'm not... because I need really people who are more skilled. Maybe I can tell what is our view to such things with an anecdote. There was a very good theater of Roma theater called Paralipe. It was from Skopje. It was very important theater in ex-Yugoslavia. All around the festivals, the events and so on. And they were invited to Theater an der Ruhr in Germany. And really, they were working there for more than 10 years. And the moment came when they should celebrate their 30th anniversary. But they never did, because their German manager had stolen all of their money. So this is what exactly, this is an absurd situation. If you steal from gypsy, it's really absurd. But for me, this is what is Europe, or what is our civilization, or how we are living. I mean, we who have more rights than people who have less rights, or the refugees and so on. This is, for me, it is this, actually, So
We'll come to this.
Yeah.
I just wanted to
Sorry.
conclude the first round with Andrea. So if we were talking about community theater, social aspects of art, therapeutic and other parts of where art can participate, when art can open the space, and art can also bring up awareness or something. So we are in one of the heavy problems with which will we continue with the project that you are doing with Vasis Maribor. We heard today about the TAM, about the clothing factory. We heard about the new project that you have a lot of problems with. And I find it ironic that the project that is worth, something around 30,000 euros and talks about the big financial breakdown of Slovenian church can't see the light of it. I guess it will, but you have a lot of problems. You already mentioned it at the presentation, but theater art shouldn't judge, should point out the problems, should deal with them. But it seems in your project that is bringing out the worst, because we are not maybe writing about this enough, about or closing the factory or about the church and their business. The situation in the court is going slowly on and so on. I mean, you're pointing out the themes that they are not primary themes of the media and the social life. So you think that's why you're dangerous?
Okay, maybe because I was thinking while you were saying this, that maybe is this because we are all, you're talking a bit about refugees, a theater of press, and I think that the system is kindly supportive towards the social groups going into the integration towards arts. But then we have another problem, how to do with these groups or elements of social elements in the organization who are a little bit above the art, kind of, And, and this is also, I think, the main thing, to touch the church, because this is not just then the question of art and theater, but it goes towards, touching something which should be kind of untouchable in some kind of way, because it kind of, I would say, the whole ideology, it's kind of, it's all about connection to that, and maybe this is not the thing, that these things are not publicly said. We all know because it was in the national television also, for example, a Pop TV, I think, a lot of information about this Maribor Archgeodesy, what happened, what was about this debt, everything, it was said. But when it was then, so it was just, a peak of information, you get it, okay, somebody was thrown out of Slovenia, Mirko Kraševec, and what now? But the thing is that I think that this is the crucial point. It's not about, if you're talking with church, it's not just a question about how, but also it's a question about what. So what? If you touch the proletarians, we all kind of agree that this, a lot of projects, it's a kind of projects of workers, as I said before, but when you touch something which is a little bit up, then you have a problem just by touching it. And maybe I think it's also another thing I would maybe, because I think that Draga said something beautifully, that she said you should put all yourself in it. And this is, I think, that what we do actually, we have to in some kind of way, because we have different backgrounds, we had to put all of ours in this kind of thing, in order to also, it also refers what Sebastian said about, why we are using the format of libretto, why we are using this format of something which is a little bit not theatrical, but it goes into another genre of opera. But it's a kind of the same thing that we just, kind of go a little bit deeper into this problem, and we do about this problem a kind of format which we want to use, and which I think that as a format also speak about the problematic we have. And the third thing which is important for me in this kind of problematic thing, it's a kind of very clear how kind of scared we are, kind of oppressed in a way, but not just we, but all in this. I'm talking about the Slovenia as a society and the institutions who are kind of should be working for us, the citizens. And, because of, this kind of rejection of the Maribor theater, it's for me talking a lot about this fear and about impossibility of communication, like normal communication, as like not normal communication between artist and artistic director of the theater. It's everything was like that, it was kind of no communication, but very clear kind of reason which is kind of behind. And I think it's also it could be, as I said maybe a little bit before, it's also this thing about the borders of kind of theatricality, because then you just you have a kind of your you're facing with the problem that could not be put into the question. So it's a kind of taboo. So don't touch it. Don't go there. It's a kind of the thing that it was kind of already set. And why not to do the project with that? I remember I saw the performance in, we all know about what happened in Pussy Riot kind of constellation about, going to church because they were put into jail, not in the actions they did before, but exactly when they go to church, it became problematic. And I think, this, what also Sebastian says, this new spirituality, it's a lot about this kind of new colonization of this kind of spiritual space. That it's a kind of, I think that it's going more and more closed, and we are also putting these things into the question in our new project.
Could I just, I've been sitting here listening to you and thinking, for me as a project manager, it's really important to know if it's a social project or if it's an art project. What is the purpose about your work? And how do you define that when you work? What comes first?
I think social. It is the decision you make. You can make. You know what can you achieve, how far you can come. I think social is the first such projects and so on, such kind of work. Social is, or ethical or moral, is the most important. But you, as an artist, you can do, I think, you can do art if you really put yourself, as I said, and if you really want to achieve it. And you can put it as an art project. If you want, if you can frame, your frame can be artistic project.
The tool.
You can achieve such strength, importance, I don't know, value. It can be art. I've seen a lot of performances because we had a festival in Slovenia, in Ljubljana, who did from different European countries, also from Slovenia. The performers there were people with special needs. But it was art, not everything, but some of things, some of parts or some of performances were art, were artistic. You can feel it and you can know it.
Because one of the projects that we work with in Gothenburg is called Dansronden. It's professional dancers that do, what do you call it, do the round, when doctors do the round. But it's on a children's hospital, so they do the dance round. And there are no audience. There's only the two dancers and one children, and then they go to the next room. But this is an art project, because they are not dance pedagogue. No, they are dancers, professional dancers. So this is not a social project first. But I was thinking about what you said. They get to take care of their experience, because it's not easy to dance on a children's hospital.
Yes, but I
And
think
then
this
they-
is a social. Sorry, I think this is a social project. I think because
In your opinion?
yes, for me this is social because it is because they want to help these children, this child. Nobody is watching them. And you can't. Now we should maybe it's just not the right moment to talk about what is art and so on. But some of these projects are artistic, even if they are done with the people with the special needs. But then they are really prepared as an artistic project. They are not they're not therapeutic only. They're not doing for. Sorry.
Thanks. I just wanted to close it down with what you just did, but I think that you cannot divide art and social projects. It's the same thing. You cannot put it in brackets.
Any remarks?
I have different opinion, but I wouldn't. But it is your opinion, and mine is different, so it's okay. I think you can do it. My experience says that you can.
I just want to add one sentence. I think, but this is also my personal. I also don't believe that you can really divide, because you can divide maybe in the. I could not see this kind of division, but for me it's the question how strong something it is, because the strongness, and then it's a question. Because for example, then we can also, for example, think, because in TAM, this project, we were using, it was 4 workers, and nobody could tell, no, I believe that no, if you don't have this all experience of a lifetime working there, being employee leave or this, no actor could not maybe pass this kind of information if they were. But this was kind of a question of selection of our common decision that we used them as a part of the performance, and they were having a big trema. We had to set it in every time when they go out, they were asking us, I was good, it was well set, and we said yeah, it was great. And also once it was happened that one, it was such a trema that he was like a shaking, and the other one, he really went into this personal stories, saying all the time. So it was kind of experience of the stage, which every time was kind of different. But I could not imagine that somebody could play a role of the employees. I'm just using this as a maybe explanation, or just my personal kind of point of view, that I think that the boundaries between social or artistic could be also in one concrete case, not in a general, could be kind of non-existing boundaries.
Did you get a question that you think, when it comes to TAM or the subject that you want to do now, is there any doubt about, is it art? It should be part of art or not? Or this is not an issue? With outside feedbacks on what you do?
I think, yes, I think it's kind of art, because I will also get back, to this, what it was also said, that the theater it will not change the world, beauty could change the world, and art is the part of this beauty. And maybe we should then consider as a beauty, but if I consider as an art, of course I think it's artistical project, because I think that every artist, it's a kind of part of, it's a kind of saying something about the time and the space where, when and where it is produced. It's always this kind of communication, it's since ever. It's always the art, whether we have a songs, poets, literature, it's always is some kind of communication with the kind of theme and the things which are happening in the society. Even though we have a Beckett's monologues, it's a kind of say something about the temperature or the atmosphere about the certain society and the things. But I would consider this project as an art, but maybe not necessary, because it was a kind of theatrical documentary project, but maybe not necessarily as a theater, but maybe kind of artistic format, a performative artistic format, which maybe it's not a theater, because first we choose a format of a social celebration ceremony, and the second one it's a kind of format of opera, which is kind of could be the theater, but I think also much more connected with the artistic performing format.
Okay, if we take your art is talking about time and space and here and now, let's talk about Europe. Europe is many things. For sure it's in a crisis, it's not just financial, and I would like to, for all of you to, let's say, comment on maybe I'll put out some things which are or banal or naive, or first-handed, but we have our dear Europe. We have all these social, financial problems, and we still have some money to invest in culture to talk about social problems. For example, we are sitting in the place which used to be a factory. Of course, doesn't longer exist. It fell down, business was bad, so people lose jobs. Now it's a polygon it's called Polygon. It's a place for art. And now European Union is giving us money to sit here and talk today about art, connection, and so on. Draga, you mentioned that you attend, I don't know, it was a conference or what, that the writers, you were invited to write about refugees, that they pay you expensive tickets and they put you in an expensive hotel to write about refugees, and your comment was it wouldn't be better to give the money directly to refugees. So I would like to talk about this circle, about, let's say, hypocrisy in Europe, in all situation. It's not only hypocrisy, but
while I was working with the refugees, many times I was asked to, and I was sitting with the people from Europe, all kinds of people, talking about Bosnian war and so on. And I often said that I don't believe in multiculturalism, and especially I don't believe in European multiculturalism. I think it is a big lie, because otherwise we wouldn't have so much refugees in Sicilia and so on. Refugees would change the world, not only Europe, in, I don't know how, not
soon.
Yes, perhaps very soon. So, that's why I said that I did everything I did because of myself, because I had bad conscience. And because I really had very bad conscience what happened in my homeland. So that's why I wanted to work with the refugees. That's why I was working with the people with the special needs. I really had a great time. But anyway, it was a conference, I think 10, maybe 15 years ago, that was... ETC is very important theater organization, European Theater Convention, in which there most of the European national theaters, and also our Slovene Ljubljana National Theatre, and also Mladinsko was a part of it. And I was invited to talk on this panel, and when I came there, they asked me to sit on the dinner with the people who were in the board of this, the most very important organization. But after I had a speech, they didn't want to see me anymore. They was just looking through myself. I was not existing anymore there, because I asked them to give all this money. We were using there, or because they also had a big project. It was lasted for 3 years, that European drama writers should write on refugee, on this idea, theme, and so on. So it was really a lot of money. And Europe has a lot of money anyway, but still doesn't want to deal with the most important question that are on the table all the time. So this is tricky. I think it is a very tricky work, and it is a tricky job. This is my opinion. You may not, nobody can, I don't accept that somebody agree with me. So I think it's very tricky.
I would like to hear comments of all of you on this subject that Draga pointed out.
Yeah, I agree with that this is a tricky, because if it's, it's also, I found very problematic, when you get funds from certain topics. That means that just, when it's a kind of, you apply for the project. I've heard a couple of years ago, also in Germany, it was, only you get the money if you are interested in this and this and this subjects. So it's refugees, it's ecology, it's kind of going through borders. It's also multiculturalism. This kind of concepts, which it's kind of that's why maybe I said this. What I was saying before. You kind of giving money, or you are kind of contributing to the social cohesion in this kind of way. But while actual help or actual problems, it's a kind of it's watching you in a way. And the thing, what you were saying about this talking, yes, kind of this is also one of the types, but I still find it important. I still find it necessary, because this is maybe the only places in this kind of things that things are talked. But then I see that maybe more problematic. Then the next step? What happens after? What is the influence of the society? How society reacts? Because my kind of personal problem is when we have, but I think that the problems of the whole art, you have, for example, some performers or something or some action which was really good, successful, has a lot of impact in the local community, maybe in the kind of theater history, whatever. But it's just kind of when it's the end, it's a kind of the end, and we put this in the closet and nothing kind of happens. And this is the thing that I think that it's a systematic blocking of influences that some good project may involve in the broader space. And this is what I found kind of problematic, because also I don't know if we have this performance of Erased. So if what can we do? Okay, we have artistic project about that. Some question was raised, how it's with this problematic. They solve it in the kind of little way, just a little bit cosmetics, but it's not solved as a problem. And this is what they found problematic. What happens with this time after after this, that I know that some worker, he expects that somebody will go to jail, that something will happen after that. But the problem is that no, but it was just this, and it was kind of over, kind of. And I find it, if when I see something really nice, if I could see that some impacts could have, that you don't have a push from the another kind of institutional space of another kind of society, that something really changes. But I still think that this kind of talks and these things are important, because at least we constantly keeping this thing vivid, that it's not that it's here, that it's there. And they also we knew who is doing what, and how how and what other kind of methodologies, processes, things are going on around. This is kind of, I think, very important to know.
Alberto, you're an expert of
Yes.
European programs, strategies.
I think that it's very interesting, the ideas that I take money and give them the money directly to refugees or poor people on the... I'm Italian. I came from a country that is based on a cultural capital. Okay. My question is, if in the 14th, 15th, 16th century, if rich people give
I mean for cultural projects. Sorry, I don't mean just to give them money, but for their cultural projects. This.
No, I don't understand.
The thing is that when I quote Draga's story, I didn't finish it well. Draga suggested then, don't give us money to write about refugees, give it refugees for their culture, for cultural projects,
Directly.
not for
Yes.
refugees on general.
Directly refugee for cultural work. Yes, but I'm arriving. And if rich people don't give money to Donatello, that he was a professional, or Michelangelo or Raffaello, and today my country have not the David and so on. Who am I? Who am I without my culture? And I didn't build the David. Okay. I think that the question on if we are the high professionals are important in European culture, and if they have a rule, a possible rule, is central. I think that in specific our work, this process is in a meeting. It's a meet between refugees. In a case, in my experience, between citizen and people and the professional. But I think that we need high level professional to have a good work. Personally, I worked on a European project because I trust in Europe, not just for take money. I think that it's a very interesting question to the audience too. Which is your idea about Europe today? Why today in Italy Europe is not by all the people, but some artists think that, okay, there is Europe, I can have money to make my work. But I think that the question is why I'm working on it. And my cultural work is a deep work of meeting with people or not, which is my goals, and so on. And that these goals are in synchrony with Europeans' goals. I think that I am an European citizen. And I think that in all of these questions, culture is the central question, because the idea that where put my the monies, put in the center of the question the monies, not culture. And we are living in a big crisis, big global crisis, because like my colleagues said in their speech, monies became the center. And we lose the idea of culture that can change a context, a situation. Crisis begin because in the United States, the North American citizen was thought that can buy everything with making debt. Okay, now we have a big crisis for this problem. But this problem is a cultural problem. And so I think that people that go to Europe and ask money to Europe have to build a project that is based on values, European values. This is my point of view.
Malin and Barbara?
Well, Europe, it's so many layers. The first thought that came up was about the culture budget. In Sweden, we have been talking so much about the value of art. We need to measure everything. Everything has to be measurable in arts and culture projects. Has been for a couple of years. I don't know if you recognize it all through Europe, but everything needs to be measurable so that you can put it into an economic context, and then you can apply fundings and etc. And but the good thing that it has led to is that we finally know that art is valuable for community development or society development, and that art is actually a economic growth factor in Europe, that the culture world in Germany, for example, is larger than the car industry. It passed it a couple of years ago. So, where am I going with this? But I think that's why I keep going back to, is it art or is it social project? Because for me, everything is connected to economy, but economy is only economy is just a way of allocate your resources. So it's, for me, it's so many layers that comes up when we speak now, because I don't think that you can only say that art should have more money, or if yes, it should, of course, but you need to have a strong idea why. Is it an art project or is it a social project? That's, I think, why I want to define that first in every project, because then I get the argument why and not, yeah.
I will reply just with one sentence, which for me maybe it's, a problem, kind of the biggest one, how to fight over bureaucratization, in every kind of field, because in this kind of field then boundaries between arts and social, breaks, because it's all about bureaucratization, and how to fight this over bureaucratization of.
I think, as we said before, use their weapons. Their own weapons, the finance guys and the ladies with the big pocket full of money. We need to change their language and into our language so that we can give other arguments. That is, everything is connected, art and society and everything and money. I don't know.
I guess I have to say something.
If you want to, it's
No,
not. I mean, if you
I
like
will
to.
just share again. What I see on the case of Theatre of the Oppressed, maybe in this connection. What happened to me last year was that I went in Africa. We were like 3 countries from Europe and 3 countries from Africa. And the project about Theatre of the Oppressed was financed by Youth in Action, so it was European money. And firstly, we went to South Africa, where we lived in very fancy hotel, of course. And we had too much food. I think that we were really I felt like a fat chicken. And in few days, of course, black people were working there, and we should be very happy for them because they have jobs. And one day I asked our mentor, who was also coordinator and organizer, why we are living in this fancy hotel if we are doing Theatre of the Oppressed and dealing against racism. And my idea was that we could also cook on our own, and sleep, I don't know, in some less fancy building or in tents or something. And she said, because of the program, because if we would cook, then we would not have enough time to work on our program. And for me, this was not acceptable, but it was her idea of the project. And this is I guess it was written good enough that the project got the money. To me, this is this conflict also in Theatre of the Oppressed, that during the day we were discussing about oppression between white and black people, and we were living in this fancy hotel where we were living like kings and queens. And then just the other aspect from Theatre of the Oppressed is that also happened to me, I think it was yesterday. Yes, when I was driving home, maybe it was 2 days ago, from Ljubljana. What's the Theatre of the Oppressed in Europe, the situation of this method is that the way I know for Vienna, let's say for Austria and Germany, let's say weekend workshops there are between 200 or 300 euros. And people are visiting these workshops, of course. And then my question is who are participants of this Theatre of the Oppressed workshops in this case? To me the question is if I want to work with everyone, with people that are not economically strong, I can't work with that kind of budget. And what I wanted to say is that 2 days ago, when I was driving home here to Maribor, one lady, when she was driving the car, and she is a businesswoman, she said, but you should value yourself more or better, and of course these workshops that you're doing should be around 300 euros, but you just have to sell yourself, And I will just finish with this, what is Theatre of the Oppressed nowadays, and who are oppressed people?
Any questions, comments? Because we should talk about future, and we shouldn't conclude so depressed. So you're most welcome.
I would like to say that I strongly believe in such projects. I strongly believe in people who are doing such things. And really, because you can do really not much, but for the people you are working with and for yourself, you can do really a lot. So I really, really strongly believe in this kind of work. So even if it's more or less social, it is always social, or if it's more or less artistic. But it is very, very important. Otherwise, if we wouldn't do this, we would lose all of our belief in social, in moral, in ethics. And so it is really very, very important. So I hope we would have more such programs.
I can agree that, and just add that what is a kind of a way to fight for me, it's a kind of a fight for the human-to-human communication, which I think it's a basic thing in theater, no matter what, and of course it's also part of social, but this human-to-human communication, what the concrete human can contribute, give to human. I think this is the most valuable thing that and maybe also the only thing that goes beyond this kind of society that capitalistically based that we are living in, just this.
I agree. So, thank you so far. We'll still stay here. We return with my program. Does anybody have a program somewhere? So we'll continue today also with a movie at 7 o'clock. Thank you. With a movie at 7 o'clock, and I think it's the best to take maybe a bigger break and see you at 7 at the movie of Token Quiz of the Differences. And thank you so far. Thank you for coming, and thank you for listening.